Hey everybody, so I'm over here right next to the mall. So there is the end of the Riverwalk, right there where I park, and there is the map, but you can't really tell. So I'm right over here by the mall. So right behind me is where you buy tickets and you get on this little boat and it goes around and they talk about everything cool, all the old stuff and everything. I don't know, it sounds fun, so I tried it. It's 12 bucks, so it leaves at 6, so I got a half hour. Oh, it leaves at 6, it's 5, but I can load at 5:40. So I'm gonna go do some Mexican food again because it was good last time. Ate it the other day and I liked it, and it's close to where my toe starts. So the life of a trucker, right? Kind of funny, but whatever. Hey everybody, so I just got on the boat for the tour. It's gonna be pretty fun. Just gonna walk around and just record, and I don't know. Let's see if all my stuff can fall in the river since it's really expensive. And I guess it's only 3 feet deep, so it should be fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, and we are off. Welcome to the lovely Riverwalk here this evening at San Antonio. I'm going to be your boat captain here tonight. My name is Jeremy. And as we sail along through here, I do have some very important safety rules that I do need everyone on board to follow. There is no smoking, no standing unless to take a quick picture or switch seats there real quick. If you have any cell phones, iPhones, please set them to vibrate. And those of you on the outsides might want to keep an eye on your arms, elbows, and cells, just in case we come up against the wall, the sidewalk, or another boat on this tour. Other than that, though, our first stop for a tour is going to be right into the heart of the River Center Mall area here. Itself the second largest mall here in all of San Antonio, beaten out only by the North Star Mall on the north side of Loop 410 in San Pedro. This is, however, the only mall here in all of San Antonio with a river going right into its very center, hence River Center, which has over 100 stores and restaurants here, a comedy club, and 2 movie theaters. Regular AMC movie theater plus an IMAX theater with a much taller and wider screen. And in this IMAX here, they usually have geographical and historical documentaries. Occasionally they'll have they also have a continuous showing of the Alamo, The Price of Freedom, which is an hour-long reenactment of the Battle of the Alamo that takes place on a continuous loop. Occasionally they'll have a big budget Hollywood blockbuster film play up here as well. Currently, in fact, they do have Black Panther playing up here. And this mall here was founded in 1988, but before they founded this mall, they wanted to put these 2 Marriott hotels up here in 1979. The one on the left, they had no trouble putting up. The one on the right, however, far over on the other side of Commerce Street, in its spot used to sit the old Fairmont Hotel, an abandoned building which they wanted to tear down to make room for this Marriott. But San Antonio Conservation Society got involved and claimed that the Fairmont Hotel up here was too historic to tear down, since it used to be an old salesman's hotel. Instead, after more than 5 years of negotiating, raising funds, and planning, they took the 3-story, 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel that used to be on up here, loaded it onto about 36 axles, 8 truck tires each, and 30 steel beams, then wrapped it up in steel cables, which were connected to trucks, which dragged that 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel from March 30th until April 4th in 1985, just about 6 blocks south and to the west ahead of us, to its new location at South Alamo and the Wave Streets. Huge amount when they moved that Fairmont Hotel. It made newspapers all around the world, and there was a rumor going around the bookkeepers at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas had placed 7-to-1 odds that the Fairmont wouldn't make it past Market Street Bridge up ahead of us. Luckily, it managed to do so once the Fairmont then got to its new spot at South Alamo and the Wave Streets, and then reopened as a first-class hotel. And you can't see the Fairmont Hotel on river level, but I wanted to talk about it because it's an excellent example of conservation, which is a bit of a major thing here in San Antonio, as many of the older, more historic buildings down here aren't always torn down. Many are preserved and restored, thanks to the efforts of many local conservation activists down here, including the San Antonio Conservation Society. And I'll even show you some other great examples of conservation later in our tour, but first, to the right of our boat up here is a statue with a light being shone on it in the evening. It's a statue of the very man whom this river and the city built around it were named after. Saint Anthony de Padua right here, who is depicted as holding the baby Jesus in the center on top of a Bible. He was a 12th century Catholic patron saint of lost and stolen items, And San Antonio is Spanish for St. Anthony. The story goes that it was back in the 1600s, during the Age of Exploration, that the country of Spain, who laid claim to much of what is now modern Texas and Mexico, had expeditions sent out in order to set up missions so that they could convert some of the local natives down here. And one expedition was sent out in 1691, which came upon this river on June 13th of that year, where they met a very friendly Payaya Indian tribe camped along this river's banks. So Damien Malzanet, Catholic missionary with that expedition party, gave some gifts to those Indians as a sign of friendship, and then himself performed the first Catholic Mass here along this river on that day of June 13th, 1691, which was the feast day of St. Anthony de Padua, June 13th once again. So Damien Malzanet himself then named the river San Antonio, which is Spanish for St. Anthony, with the city later being built around the river, taking the name of the river, and we've been growing ever since. And much of our city's success over the years has been thanks to the contributions by many cultural groups down here, a great example of which is the St. Joseph's German Catholic Church coming up to the right of our boat on Commerce Street. This church up here on Commerce Street was founded up here in 1868 by members of the German population so that they could have services completely in their own language. After a huge wave of German immigrants came down to San Antonio in the 1850s and 60s, they've had a considerable influence upon the city, so that to this day, in fact, German is the third most popular language here in San Antonio, just behind Spanish and English. They still have an all-male choir called a Lila that does perform up there completely in German on the 4th Sunday of every month, which is this coming Sunday. In fact, if any of y'all were still here this Sunday, go and visit up there at St. Joseph's so you can hear Mass completely in German. And just past St. Joseph's, we have the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce to the right of our boat here, a great first stop to come to for anyone who wants to move down here to our lovely city or start up a business down here. We're just past it, up ahead of our boat is Cockerel, a lovely Mexican restaurant up here. Itself the first and oldest restaurant along the Riverwalk. Founded up here in 1946 by the Bear family. It's also the first restaurant up here to have riverside dining, as well as some of the dinner boats that you may have seen along the river. As originally Cockerel had little Venetian-style gondola boats that would take people up and down the river, which were later used as the inspiration for the other dinner boats, these tour boats, and also the little tiny paddle boats that they used to have along the river, which themselves were discontinued due to too many people falling off of them into the water. As for the dinner boats, every restaurant now have them to this day. You want information on them? All you need to do is contact our company's website, which is on either side of your tickets there. Now as we turn by Cockerel, if you look across the river from Cockerel, to the left of our boat and behind us on street level, you'll see this big orange sculpture right up here. At the conjunction of Commerce, La Jolla, and Alamo Streets, this is the Torch of Friendship right here. Given to us back in 2002 by the country of Mexico to signify decades of friendship between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. It was designed up here in fact by a world-famous Mexican architect who is known in most architectural circles under the nickname of Sebastian, although his real name is Enrique Carvajal. Just past that Torch of Friendship then, we're going to sail by the Hilton Palacio Hotel to the left of our boat up here, Spanish for palace on the river. One of a few hotels that was built in the downtown area in the mid-1960s, and this hotel here was built from 1967 to 68 at a record-breaking 202 working days, using a very unique building method back then. You look above the 4th floor, each of these rooms here look like boxes. That's because each of these rooms here were built on assembly line fashion, 8 miles south ahead of us, at the same time that the first 4 floors and the elevator shafts were built down here. They then drove each of these rooms down here on flatbed trucks, filled them up with furniture and accessories, and stacked each one on top like Lego blocks using a giant crane. Many of the first guests to arrive here were even given the option of riding their room up to the very top as they were being lifted up by that giant crane. This Hilton here was built right next door to AwT on this hilltop up ahead of us. One of the first ever settlements in all of San Antonio. Founded up here in 1722 as a neighborhood for families of Spanish soldiers, many of whom were themselves stationed out of the first mission founded down here, San Antonio de Valero, now known as the Alamo. AwT itself over the years though became a regular neighborhood and had fallen into hard times by the early 20th century until it was restored in 1939 underneath the direction of an architect named O'Neill Ford. And since then, AwT up here has become home to many shops, galleries, boutiques, and restaurants up here during the day, as well as the Arneson River Theater theater right here. It's very popular outdoor river theater right here, which has had many different shows and events take place here throughout the years. Or as we sail through the Arneson River Theater, to the right of the boat above the stage, you'll see these 5 bronze bells up here. These are the Hookman Dolls that were placed up here to honor the 5 missions founded down here, including San Antonio de Valero, once again founded in 1718, San Jose, founded 2 years later in 1720, San Juan, Concepcion, and Espada, all founded 11 years later in 1731. I mentioned that the first mission, San Antonio de Valero, was founded in 1718. As a result, that year marks the official founding of our city of San Antonio, 1718. And as a result, this year, 2018, is our city's 300th anniversary, which the city is in fact advertising for on a website called sanantonio300.org, which, in fact, if you want something to do during the rest of your stay here, or even during the later in the year to come back down in a few months, visit that website then, sanantonio300.org. And just past the Arneson River Theater then, to the roundabout boat up here, we're going to sail by this one statue right here, which depicts an old cattle driver that used to come through town in the mid-1800s, back when San Antonio was a wild western cattle and ranching town, before the arrival of the railroad in 1877. This statue sits right in front of the Bristol Western Art Museum here then. So probably the last major thing put down along the Riverwalk was founded here in 2013 and named in honor of Dolph Briscoe Jr., a former mayor of San Antonio, who himself had an extensive collection of wild western art and memorabilia, which is kept on the inside of this museum to this day, including one of Pancho Villa's old saddles and Santa Anna's ceremonial dagger as well. It's bordered on the west side here by Presa Street Bridge, and Presa is Spanish for dam. The street right here was called that because of little gravity-fed ditches known as acequias that were dug up all around town in the 1700s by the early settlers in order to divert water from the river down to the various missions and their farmlands. Just on the other side of Presa Street Bridge, we're going to sail by Marriage Island. Coming up to the right of our boat here, this little outcropping of land here, it's a very popular place of getting married at, which has this diamond-shaped iron sculpture on it called Malsonet's Table, placed here in 1991 to honor the 300th anniversary of that first Catholic Mass that occurred along this river, which once again was on June 13th of 1691 by the missionary Damien Malsonet, hence Malsonet's Table. Sitting right in front of the Hotel Courthouse here, which has a tile design on its wall over here that talks about the old mill crossing just ahead of our boat here. So named because of the old Nat Lewis Mill that was founded up here in 1845, which used to grind grain for many of the citizens in the mid to late 1800s, and thus marked was probably the last major crossing point for horse-drawn carriages before the arrival of the automobile to San Antonio. Where just on the other side of it, we're going to sail by the Westin Hotel, coming up to the right of our boat here. It's the last major hotel to ever open along the Riverwalk in the last century. Opened in November of 1999 and decorated on the inside with furniture from a 17th century European castle. Just across the river from the Tower Light building, way up to the left of our boat in the sky here, which itself opened to the public on June 1st, 1929, is the Smith & Young Tower, named after its original owners, who wanted to build this big, huge complex of buildings on this whole area of land toward left, which they planned would be similar to New York City's Rockefeller Center. They were going to call that project Bowen's Island Skyscrapers, with the Smith & Young Tower here as the centerpiece. Unfortunately, once again, this building opened to the public on June 1st, 1929. Stock market crashed just a few months later. Smith & Young went bankrupt, had to sell this property, and eventually it switched hands over the years, and since then it's become home to the Tower Life Insurance Company, hence the Tower Life building. Although briefly it was headquarters here for the U.S. Army during World War II, where General Dwight D. Eisenhower was stationed on the 7th floor when he received the phone call about Pearl Harbor being attacked. Just across the river from it then, to the roundabout boat, we're going to sail by a couple of parade boats started getting ready for a parade that's occurring along the river beginning at 7 p.m. each night until March 3rd. This is called Confucius Lanterns on the River. It's basically in honor of the Asian New Year. It was in fact an Asian New Year festival. It's down at the Institute of Culture this past Saturday, and now they're just having parade boats along the river, like I said, until March 3rd. In fact, they're down here at the International Center to the right of our boat. This green building here, which used to be home to the San Antonio Public Library from 1968 till 1998, when it then became home to the offices of the North American Free Trade Agreement and Development Bank. as well as the old marina underneath. One of two marinas where my company and the city dock our boats during the evenings, which has the Bexar County Courthouse just past it, up ahead of us. This big red building here, which was founded in 1896 and is considered the oldest continuously operating courthouse in all of Texas. It's going to mark then where we'll exit floodgate 4 right here, where as we approach this archway here, if you look to either side of the boat along these walls, you'll see these metal scrapings here. They represent where there is a drawbridge in the water that comes up along with the rest of this flood channel out here. During heavy rains and major flooding, so as to make sure the water levels behind us within the main horseshoe bend area of the Riverwalk remain the same at all times. And as we enter into this flood channel, it has floodgate 5, 200 yards to the left of our boat. The top of a waterfall down there, which has the new marina all to the right side of it. And that waterfall itself is about 15 feet deep, with the Riverwalk continuing on down past that waterfall, alongside the backs of the homes of the King William's district. Lovely old German neighborhood down there. It's a very popular place to take a nice leisurely stroll through during the day. Marks then where we made this turn into the main channel of the San Antonio River, which itself begins about 4 miles north ahead of our boat at the University of the Incarnate Word, at a small little fountain known as the Blue Hole, which comes out of the ground in the form of springs from the Edwards Aquifer. The San Antonio River begins at that Blue Hole, flows down here, and continues on down south behind us for 180 miles until it empties into the Guadalupe River, just about 2 miles from the San Antonio Bay, which then empties into the Gulf of Mexico. And at this point, if you look up to the left of the boat on street level here, you'll see a whole lot of these locks along this fence. This is a popular trend that started in Europe a few years back, but it's made its way around the globe to the US, where whenever people do get married along a river, they then lock a lock along a chain link fence by said river and throw the key into the river in order to signify their undying love. Now, I mentioned we are in the main channel of the San Antonio River, but we are not in natural waters, as originally the river would flow down here, veer to our right up ahead of us through what is now floodgate 3, go all the way through the horseshoe bend, and come out behind us where floodgate 4 is to this day. To the right of our boat here, we're going to sail by the Joy Plaza Hotel. This building used to be the Alamo Bank building, but it became the Joy Plaza last decade, and donated this sidewalk to the city that serves as a shortcut between floodgates 4 and 3 along the river level, and marks where this all used to be land here. The city dug it up here all the way down to 15 feet deep below us and built this bypass flood channel here the mid-1920s in response to a flood that our city suffered from in September of 1921. A flood that was so bad that some business leaders at the time even pressured city leaders to pave over the horseshoe bend area of the river and turn it into a sewer. And keep in mind, this was before the Riverwalk was even here. Luckily, the San Antonio Conservation Society were founded around this time in 1924 by two women, Rena Maverick Green and Emily Edwards, who themselves heard about the efforts to pave over the horseshoe bend area of the river, went before city commissioners in 1924 and performed a puppet show of the goose that laid the golden egg, pleading with the city leaders not to kill the goose that will lay the golden egg of the city of San Antonio. And they were successful in convincing the city leaders not to pave over the horseshoe bend area of the river, which is where we're going to re-enter into, cutting off the north channel, which our regular tour boats don't go up, as it's mostly just residential and office buildings up there, a lot more quiet and peaceful up there. But before we enter back into the horseshoe bend area of the river, if you look straight dead ahead of our boat and above here, you'll see the largest and oldest tree along the entire Riverwalk right here. Over 9 stories tall and over 300 years old. It's been here ever since the first Spanish explorers came along this river, known as the Ben Malam Cypress Tree, or Ben Malam Sniper Tree, in honor of Benjamin Rush Malam, one of the heroes of the Texan Revolution. He was the leader of the Texas rebellious forces for the first half of the Battle of Bear, which was the final battle of the Texan Revolution before the Battle of the Alamo. It took place from December 5th until December 9th of 1835, and on the third day of battle, December 7th, Benjamin Rush Malam was standing just to the left of our boat across the river over here, where he was shot and killed from what a lot of people said must have been from a sniper from up in the branches of this tree right here. And that's the reason why they call it the Ben Malam Cypress Tree, or Ben Malam Sniper Tree, to this day. It's going to mark then where we'll go ahead and rejoin the natural flow of the river then, sail underneath floodgate 3 here, which comes down from above like a garage door, alongside the rest of this flood channel, once again during heavy rains and major flooding, so as to make sure that Water levels ahead of us remain level and don't wash out any of the restaurants, businesses, or anything else of that nature along the way. So I mentioned this whole flood channel, all built because of that flood in September of 1921. Where you want a great visual aid of just how bad flooding got here that year, to the left of our boat up here is the Jury Inn. This building became the Jury Inn in 1999, but originally it was a city public service building in the early 20th century, where for that flood in 1921, floodwaters reached to the top of the first floor windows right up here, getting to over 10 feet above street level in the downtown area all around us. That's how bad that flood was in 1921. It was not the first nor the most recent, but definitely the most significant flood in our city's history, since over 50 people lost their lives and there was millions of dollars in property damage, and as a result it inspired the construction of the flood channel back behind us and the almost dam a few miles north to the left of our boat as well. Now coming up to the right of our boat here, we're going to be sailing by the Aztec Theater up here. Itself the last Mayan-Palestine theater in all of Texas. Originally opened in 1927 up here as a Mayan-themed Palace Theater right here, opened in 1927 as a silent movie theater in fact. Changed its format over the years, however, it fell into hard times and eventually had to close down in the 80s. The city almost tore this building down then until the San Antonio Conservation Society were able to purchase the property, restore it, and reopen it a few years back. Right next door to the Mercado Hotel, just past it, which itself used to be home to the L. Flank Saddle League in the early 20th century, which used to provide saddles and harnesses to Theodore Roosevelt and his rough riders during the Spanish-American War, the famous Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa, and the Allied forces during World War I. Well, that marker will sail underneath Salinas Bridge right here. Most technically it's Hookman's Bridge, but it's more popularly known as Salinas Bridge in honor of the famous Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla Perez. Not because of what she did, but because of the fact that Jennifer Lopez sat here on this footbridge for a scene during the movie Selena in 1997, which of course was her mainstream breakthrough role. Filmed right here on this bridge for a scene during the evening, and afterwards Jennifer Lopez spent the night in La Mansión del Rio Hotel to the left of our boat here, which itself was founded in 1853 as the St. Mary's School of Poets. Later became St. Mary's Law School in 1934, and then was purchased by two former students of St. Mary's in 1966, then restored and reopened it 2 years later in 1968, La Mansión del Rio. If you look at La Mansión del Rio Hotel here, just past it, you'll see this very tall building right here, whose walls form a very sharp corner, less than 90 degrees. As a result, this tall building up here creates a really awesome little optical illusion along the river walk, where as we sail underneath Naval Street Bridge on the other side, you look way up to the left of the boat. From this view, this tall building up here looks like a tall, flat wall about to fall on us. This is the Nyx General Hospital right here. Founded in 1930 as the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital in the entire United States. It's also the birthplace up here of Carol Burnett, the famous comedian who was raised here in San Antonio on the west side of town. And marks where we're entering into the North Square right up here, otherwise known as the nightlife of the river all around us up here. Where right in the heart of the North Square is the Hyatt Regency Hotel up in front of our boat above Pressure Street Bridge, which has the Alamo just on the other side of it. As a result, the Hyatt is only 16 floors tall. They deliberately built it that way in 1981 so that it wouldn't cast a shadow on the Alamo during sunset. So, they did reserve room on the bottom river level of the Hyatt up here for shops, a Paseo de Alamo right up here, this very beautiful area on the inside that will take you out to right in front of the Alamo, on Alamo Plaza Street, to continue on straight through there at that point. If you do go out to right in front of the Alamo, just to the right of the Alamo, across the street from it, is the Mingrel Hotel, which itself, with the Mingrel Hotel down there, is considered the most haunted place in all of San Antonio to this day. Again, that's the Mingrel Hotel just to the right of the Alamo. But back down here along the river level, we're gonna take shelter just underneath this one bridge here just because it's drizzling a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit more about the history of the river walk. In fact, just to the right of our boat up here is the old Casino Club building, which was founded in 1927 as a social club for German immigrants. Now it's home to a few restaurants here, as well as an apartment complex on the very top, where Lila Hookman used to live. She was the widow of Robert Harvey Harold Hookman, and Robert Harvey Harold Hookman himself was the architect who designed the entire Riverwalk all around us, otherwise known as the father of the Riverwalk. This was all his vision right here. He designed all the sidewalks, staircases, bridges, benches, everything you see around you here in the mid-1920s. Called it Shops of Aragon and Romula originally, in honor of two old Spanish cities, which he thought was very beautiful sounding at the time. He presented his designs for Shops of Aragon and Romula to city leaders in 1929, hoping to secure funding for the Riverwalk. Sadly, city leaders rejected the idea for a Riverwalk, but Robert Hookman wasn't going to give up that easily. Throughout the next few years, he was able to gather up some popular support and funding for his vision for a Riverwalk from a variety of sources, both public and private, including Maury Maverick, a U.S. congressman from San Antonio who was very intrigued by the idea for a Riverwalk. So Maury Maverick asked his good friend, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to send the Works Projects Administration down here, which President Roosevelt was reluctant to do at first. In fact, Maury Maverick had to ask him so many times, put so much pressure onto him, so that at one point, it's even rumored that President Roosevelt said, just give Maury Maverick the money for his darn river, so they'll quit bothering me already. And finally, after much pressure, the Works Projects Administration came down here and built the Riverwalk all around us from March 27th of 1939 until March 14th of 1941, just under 2 full years. Though Robert Hookman himself, he's considered the father of the Riverwalk to this day. In fact, his old office was even set up along the Riverwalk, which you'll see at the end of this stretch up here. And I took shelter underneath that bridge just a second, you know, so we won't have to go slowly through here with the rain on us. But let's go ahead and go full speed right through here. Now, as I mentioned, Robert Hookman, his old office used to be just to the right of our boat on the bottom river level of this last building at the corner up here, where to this day they even have his old office sign on this balcony on street level with his initials R.H.H. Hookman right here, followed by AIA, which stands for Architects Institute of America. And there's even a bust of Robert Hookman just at the foot of this staircase here as well, along with a few plaques that tell a little bit more about his history. As I mentioned, he set up shop here because he actually wanted to prove that a business could thrive upon the Riverwalk and that it would be a successful commercial district. In fact, just 5 years after Robert Hookman set up shop there is when Casa Reelden was founded across the street from him to the right of our boat up here, which, as I mentioned before, is itself the first and oldest restaurant along the Riverwalk. Founded up here in 1946, once again by the Bear family. And despite the best efforts of the Bear family who founded Casa Reelden, Robert Hookman and others who took part in the Riverwalk, in its early years, it didn't do too well. In fact, crime used to be a huge problem down here. That's so bad that at one point this Riverwalk was even declared off limits to the military because of safety concerns. What changed this Riverwalk's look, made it much safer down here and more successful to this day, was the World's Fair that the city hosted in 1968. The years leading up to the World's Fair, the city raised funds in order to help clean out the river, beef up security down here, and also built this man-made extension of the river that was just entered into right here, which all used to be land here the rest of the way down. The city built these bridges above us on street level here, dug it out here underneath them, all the way down to 5 feet below us, so that they could extend the river and the Riverwalk all the way up to the Hemisphere Plaza, which is where that World's Fair took place from April 6th until October 6th of 1968. A good full 6 months, for which millions of people came down here to San Antonio, many of whom found their way to the Riverwalk here and thought that it was so beautiful, so that when a lot of them went home, they told all of their friends about the Riverwalk. Our friends came down here and went back home and told all of their friends, and so on and so on, so that now, thanks to word of mouth since that World's Fair, this Riverwalk to this day is in constant rivalry with the Alamo for the title of most visited tourist destination in all of Texas. which has made it much safer down here for the military then. This is a good thing. San Antonio, very big military town, birthplace of the U.S. Air Force, in fact, as the first U.S. military flight in San Antonio took place on March 2nd, 1910, by Lieutenant Benjamin de la Hospital, a good friend and student of the Wright brothers. San Antonio to this day is also home to Lackland Air Force Base as well, which is where everyone within the enlisted branch of the United States Air Force comes for basic training, earning it the nickname the Gateway to the Air Force. Now, for that World's Fair in 1968, there were many pavilions down here representing many different countries. A monorail that would take people around the park and was still operational for a few years after the World's Fair. Still had a bit of an ugly incident, but it ended up having to close it down, pack it up, and put it into storage. One thing that they did have down here for the World's Fair, though, that they let remain and still remains to this day, was the centerpiece for the World's Fair in 68, which was the Tower of Americas, which you can just barely see through the fog up in front of us, up to the right here in the sky. This Tower of Americas, they actually built the part on top first, on street level, raised it up using steel cables. Some of which broke as they were raising it up, and they were afraid it was going to fall to street level, get destroyed and ruin everything. Luckily it didn't, although it did end up opening up after the World's Fair had begun. But when it was completed in 1968, it was the tallest freestanding tower in the entire United States of America. A title that it held on to for about 28 years until the Stratosphere in Las Vegas was founded in 1996. But that Tower of America's still open up there to this day. You head on up there during the day, they have a nice little gift shop, cafe, and four-dimensional movie theater on street level, as well as an elevator that will take you up to the very top, where they have a bar, observation deck, and restaurant that rotates around once per hour. Now to the left of our boat here, we're going to sail by the Lila Cockerel Theater here, named in honor of the first female mayor of San Antonio, Lila Cockerel. Her term began in 1975. You look above the Lila Cockerel Theater, you'll see this big, giant, beautiful mosaic right up here. This is the Confluence of Civilizations, which was designed for the World's Fair in 1968 by a Mexican architect named Juan O'Gorman. It depicts the coming together of the countries of the North and South Americas, who all come together in the center up here as Adam and Eve to give birth to the child of the future, who's standing just above the Alamo, which has a sash around it up there that says Libertatis Cunabula, which is Latin for Cradle of Liberty. This mosaic up here, it is 130 feet long, 22 feet tall, and has over 400,000 square inch tiles up there, using only 11 different colored tiles as well. And just past it then, surrounding us on all three sides and above here, is the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, which was built for the World's Fair in 68 and named in honor of Henry Barbosa Gonzalez. He was the first Hispanic American to serve in the San Antonio City Council in 1953, the Texas State Senate in 1956, and the United States Congress in 1961, where he then remained for over 30 years before retiring in 98. First Hispanic American to serve in all three political offices. And the Convention Center extension ends on the other side of this island to the right of our boat, but you'll walk on down here during the day, continue on underneath the Convention Center, and we'll take you out into the Hemisphere Plaza on the other side, which is a city park to this day. We ourselves, though, we're of course turning around underneath this bridge due to the fact that there's a broken rail system coming out of the lagoon here, so it's not safe for our boats back there. Electric. 5 feet. Now, at this point we're going to exit this Convention Center extension. We're around this next turn here. We're going to be re-entering into the River Center extension that we exited earlier, where we'll be coming up to back to the River Center Mall, docking right back where we departed from. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, use this time right now while you're waiting to dock to check underneath and around your seats. Make sure that you don't leave anything valuable behind. Hang on to your tickets as well, as on the side of those tickets is our company's website, in case you have any further questions or want to find out information on those dinner cruises, shuttle services, or anything else of that nature. You want more information on San Antonio's 300th anniversary? Don't forget that website, sanantonio300.org. And for your safety, please remain seated and hang tight, just until I tell you that it's safe to depart. It will be, of course, after I brought this boat to a complete stop and tied it down. Other than that, though, hope you all had a wonderful time here today. Found my tour very informative, and if you did, our boat captains are, of course, allowed to accept your tips and gratuities for a job well done, which are greatly appreciated. Go ahead, folks. Other than that, like I said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your stay here in our lovely city, and I'll wish you all a fun, farewell, a wonderful day at that.
Hey everybody, so I just got done with the Riverwalk tour. Here's the boat that I was riding on. Man, it was a lot of fun. So hope you guys kind of get to see a little bit more of San Antonio and stuff that you guys can do when you guys get around. So the trip was $12, and then I will post the picture of the website. So thanks for watching, guys.